For example, these hobbies are usually the ones that these old people cannot fulfill to that great extent because you're usually not fit enough to pursue them regularly. Even if you're interested in golf, you probably cannot go to the golf course every day. On a comparative, on our side of the world, when you derive emotional attachment, emotional stability from regular contact with these individuals, we believe this is something that doesn't require a lot of effort and something that gives you a lot of meaning. Second argument as to how we're actually able to assist these parents under our side of the world. No, thank you. Why is this important? Because understand that these individuals are likely to be physically ill, and these individuals are likely to have diseases like arthritis that limit their physical capacity. Understand that these are individuals that need to be in constant surveillance in order for an emergency to not occur. How do we fix this under our side of the world? What are the kinds of things that children can do for their parents? These children are probably likely to be able to rush their parents to the hospital in case of an emergency medical occurrences. The moment your parent faints is under our side of the world, that parent is less likely to die. Secondly, these are probably children that will be able to help parents do things like carry out heavy things, which is something which is better for their health. These children will probably be able to have constant surveillance over their parents for medical diseases. For example, if your parent is showing initial symptoms of Alzheimer's, for example, these are the kinds of small nuanced changes in characters that the parents themselves are not likely to be able to pick because they are not looking at it from a neutral, objective perspective. These are the kinds of things that the parents can do. Opposition can claim that we can hire nurses, but we claim under our side of the world we can hire better nurses when all our money doesn't go to paying rent for these individuals. Before I move on to the third argument, I'll take a big one.
Can you tell us who within a family is most likely to take care of the adult?
These are likely to be the children. We believe that these children are likely to be want to take care of their children, and which brings me directly to my third argument as to why this is better emotionally and financially for these children. Understand that these children are likely to have a sense of gratitude towards their parents. Why is this likely to be the case? First of all, these parents are individuals who raise these children, and as a result, that recognition of the fact that these individuals put hard work behind these children is something which stays within these individuals. These individuals probably recognize that their achievements would not have been possible without their parents. These individuals probably share good memories with their parents. Why is this so important? This is important because under their side of the world, not being able to take care of your parent to that great extent is something which might instill a sense of guilt into these individuals. When an individual hears from a phone call that the parent fell on the floor and he wasn't there to assist her or rush her to the hospital, this is something that is likely to instill a sense of guilt into these individuals. We believe that this is something that these individuals can better fulfill under our side of the world when they can pay back all the debts that they feel they owe to their parents by constantly taking care of them and constantly being there for them. Secondly, you can get unconditional support from parents under our side of the world. These children, when they come back to home from a rough day of work, and their wife isn't there to financially, emotionally support him because she might be tired, these parents are the ones who stay there for you and are always giving you emotional support. At the end of the day, we show you that this is something which the parents need because they're weak, this is something that the parents want because they're lonely, and this is something the children want because they're grateful. Very proud to propose.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 11 seconds. 8-1-1. I thank the first proposition speaker for his speech, and now would like to recognize the first opposition speaker to open the opposition's case.
Constant surveillance. You don't have a wife to support you, so you need someone who will. The question we asked that first speaker is, who are these people? Just saying children wasn't enough. Our question was more specific than that. Who are these children? We think that it's not just both children within these families happily supporting the responsibility to take care of a grandmother and constantly surveilling her. What was far more likely, considering the world that we live in, is that the women within these families, the daughters-in-law, the daughters themselves, the mothers, are the ones who are strapped with the responsibility of constantly surveilling these old people, and are the ones proposition is more than happy to leave behind. We want a new life for old people. That's what we are proud to stand for. What is our stance in this debate? A few things. The kind of world we support is one in which there's a norm in which adult children in general support their elderly parents to live separately rather than taking them in. Obviously, considering the attitude that they characterize themselves, considering that these are parents who raised you, the parents who every time you scraped your knee were there to take your hand, the parents who sent you to university, the parents who were in the front row at the point at which you were getting married, these kids are going to leave these parents behind on our side. If you are putting these parents in, say, a retirement home or supporting them in living in their own house, you are visiting them pretty frequently. You are ensuring they're taken care of. You're calling them on the phone maybe a few times a week and having a long conversation with them. No, thank you. The question of this debate then is, would we rather that you live with these parents and spend all your time with them, or would we rather that these kids engage with these parents and express their love for them in different ways? That's what we want to stand for. Our alternative for how we want these parents to be supported is two different things. Firstly, we are happy with these parents often living in retirement homes. These could be private retirement homes, state-run retirement homes. Obviously, we don't need to stand for these homes being terrible, right? Considering the fact that if this norm truly existed, there would be more and more demand for these homes, more and more people voting from around society to push for these homes to get better. These homes are likely to be really, really good on our side. So they look like retirement homes which often have many elderly people living together, which often have things like, say, swimming pools for these elderly people, aerobics classes, screenings of old movies, all the kinds of things which they wanted them to look forward to, rather than giving them a new job. Secondly, we are happy with these parents often living with either their partner or their friend, no thank you, and hiring professional carers who might be a nurse, who might have some experience specifically taking care of old people. It's just not realistic for them to pretend that, you don't have the money to hire a nurse because you now need to pay for this rent. Clearly, many old people have the savings that they were talking about in order to be able to buy that new house or in order to be able to pay for that rent. And these children are more than happy to support these parents. Considering that that is the case, we would much rather they hire people like professional nurses. A few points of rebuttal before I get into argumentation. Firstly, on their argument about emotional needs. Obviously, we agree, no thank you, that old people should have something to look forward to. But they just never proved to us why the only thing old people had the ability to look forward to was spending time with their children. But even if old people did want to spend time with their children, we think that time is far more meaningful on our side, where rather than just asking about how your day went every time the child comes off from school, if you are spending a few hours with them every time you go to a retirement home once a week, you're having a meaningful conversation with them. Because this is time we've taken out to spend with those grandparents in the first place. But secondly, we do think that older people should have the ability to have other things that matter to them as well. Just because they don't have a job doesn't mean their lives are entirely meaningless. That's incredibly odd coming from their side. It's things like spending time with the people they care about, whether that be their friends, whether that be other people that they may have grown up with, whether that be friends they might make in those retirement homes in the first place. My second argument is going to tell you more about why these elderly people are better on our side. But next on the argument about children's ability to help these parents. No, thank you. They never quite told us why these children, any other child who's never actually had any professional experience in spotting Alzheimer's, is going to be better at spotting Alzheimer's than a nurse who's trained in spotting Alzheimer's. In fact, these were the kinds of things that they were concerned about. Those things become far worse on their side when children are able to say, grandmother is just being forgetful. She's just a bit quiet. It's not that she has depression. And these are the kinds of issues which we cannot spot at the point at which you don't have professionals around these parents in the first place. Two arguments in this speech. Firstly, by elderly people living with their families being taken in is incredibly damaging for women and for other caretakers. And secondly, on benefits to the elderly. Before I move on, yes?
Would you allow parents to leave their children to live?
Of course not, right? Like, we recognize that there's a difference between, say, someone who's elderly and who's spent most of their life already and who has the ability to, who needs dependence and care in a very different way from what a child does. A child specifically needs the parents because the child hasn't grown up yet, while people that are elderly need support, which is often medical support. And those kinds of concerns are in fact much better on our side. On this being damaging for women and caretakers. They told us that these people obviously need constant surveillance, constantly being helped. So what this looks like is watching elderly people walk down the stairs, ensuring they've taken their medication, ensuring they get specific diets. Proposition proved this for us. So who are the people who are most likely to be given this responsibility? The fact that the social norms and the guilt, no thank you, to take care of these parents exists is most likely to fall upon women. Because these elderly people grew up in a time where women were the only people who were seen as caretakers. Because there exists a vicious cycle in which if women don't have a well-paying job already, it's seen as these are the people who should quit their jobs rather than the man in the family. It's seen as, right now in developing countries, an incredibly strong social perception that women are the only people who need this care and who can engage in emotional labor in the first place. All this kind of pressure is likely to fall on women the hardest. What this means is pressure which encourages women both to quit their jobs and to not pursue higher education. Already an incredibly systematic problem in the vast majority of countries around the world. It means they have less time in order to actually spend on these kinds of things in the first place, when they're spending all their time constantly surveilling these grandparents. But it also means the young children growing up in these households have role models, no thank you, in their mothers, who are only taking care of their grandparents rather than being able to go out and get a job, creating a self-reinforcing cycle where women can never break out of this norm in the first place. It also looks as like a pressure to have more and more children falling upon these women, considering that this is something that these elderly parents are very often likely to want in the first place, not allowing these women to actually be able to break out of the house. But even if this was some other caretaker, like a young man or a grandchild, the only kinds of people, even though this is systematically less likely, no thank you, even for these individuals, it can be often incredibly damaging because it restricts their ability to engage with these parents when they would want. You would much rather prefer a word when you choose, and when you choose at what times you are the time that you are spending with your parents in the retirement home, or living them, or calling them, and are able to set those boundaries for yourself in a way which facilitates women to be able to pursue better lives. On the next argument, on what is better for the elderly. We have a few ways in which people that are old are in fact systematically hurt when they live with these individuals. Firstly, because they have specific needs, often medical needs, which cannot be met by these individuals. But secondly, because these people often benefit massively out of spending time with other old people, being able to talk about what happened back in the day, especially if they don't have their partner being alive anymore. We think having other old people who have experienced similar things to you, who have grown up in the same time, can be incredibly beneficial for these individuals. But it's also the ability to have some independence, to not spend all your savings on that child, but being able to say, buy a new sari, go out with your partner, to actually have a small vacation, rather than just constantly taking care of that child. We'd much rather prefer a world where people that are old are able to have a new life and women are not left behind. We oppose.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 12 seconds. 8, 1, 2. I thank the first opposition speaker for her speech, and now I would like to invite upon the second opposition speaker.
By diseases and old age, they return to the same childishness that their children were once in. In that super scenario, when they claim that they won't want these parents to leave behind these children alone, or in other sort of boarding schools or like any other way to take care of them, we tell you that's the same reason why these children shouldn't leave these parents to live separately and live in individual houses where we claim the conditions are absolutely terrible. 3 important brackets under which all the argumentations will be, all these rebuttals will be arranged. First of all, the ways in which they're taken care of. Secondly, the interactions. Thirdly, what are the conditions that they live in. First of all, look, they tell you that the daughter and the women are forced to stay behind and take care of these children. Look at the context that this argumentation takes place in. This argumentation takes place in a context where society runs a lot of misogynist sentiments that women should probably not get out of the house and employ and get a job or take care of themselves and etc. If such societal ideologies exist, that would happen anyway. This argumentation is not exclusive. For instance, they're asked to stay behind and take care of the children and not go to a workplace. In a lot of cases, they're not given they're not allowed paid absences if those societal ideologies exist. Secondly, often the employment opportunities are also tilted against them because such societal ideologies exist in countries where where employment opportunities are also tilted against them, where in which case these women often don't get an opportunity to get to a workplace anyway. Thirdly, there's a social stigma against these women to go out of their house and work at a workplace. The point of this rebuttal is that I understand there are women that are subjugated in these ways, but that's not exclusive to just our side of this debate. That happens on both sides of this debate. This debate takes place in a world where other sorts of often like children, regardless of the gender or sexuality, are asked to take care of their parents. Secondly, look, they tell that when you meet these people less frequently, you have more lengthy conversations. I think that the fruitfulness of conversation is not determined by the length. Look, often as you grow old, the topic of conversations decreases because the relatability decreases over time. There's one person that's slowly losing their productivity, not being able to work, and there's one child that's slowly increasing their productivity, going to workplaces, doing a lot of productive stuff that often means that your ability to relate to your parent decreases, in which case your ability to have fruitful conversations over a limited amount of time decreases. But secondly, when you have a limited amount of time that you can talk, in which you can talk across a week, you often get to talk only about the important things. This often looks like talking about your medical conditions because you feel like you need to get done with those because those are absolutely crucially important things that you need to talk about. In which sort of case, the only conversation that often happens on your side of the house are conversations about how sick I am, how ill I am. That does not only make these parents feel more like they're a burden, but that dehumanizes them to a point where they feel like they're just a packet of germs and just a packet of diseases that doesn't go anywhere beyond that. I'll tell you why that dehumanization happens more so on their side of the house. Thirdly, they tell that you can set boundaries and choose when to talk. I think these parents that already often feel like they're a burden, that they're inferior, and they feel like they're a barrier to their children's lives, are often dictatorial to the point that they control these children and ask them to, look, you need to leave behind all these things and talk to me. But if that does happen to some extent, that when you continuously ask them for some emotional support, we tell you that's good. We protect the more vulnerable active in this way. These are those parents that often lack all sorts of emotional, medical support, and etc. We protect them. Lastly, they tell you, oh look, we'll have better state-run houses, right? Look, the reason why this is problematic in the very first place is because, first of all, the ability to run state houses or state homes that are actually productive is very, very limited. In a lot of cases, even if these children have an active incentive to send them to good places, the political incentive of the state is not as such that they want to finance these state homes in the very first place. Because first of all, this is a politically inactive group of people who don't run rallies, who don't go to medias and talk about their sufferings in the vast majority of cases. So the pressure on the state to actually finance these places well is often very limited. Secondly, the economic return of that investment is also very limited. You finance these homes, these people don't go to a job and don't give you a return for that investment. With the limited amount of finance that the state can use in order to get back in power in the next term, they have to use these finances on the people that are often more productive, which means the incentive for the state to actually finance these homes better is limited. Then they tell you that, oh look, we'll have better nurses, better Alzheimer detectors, better depression detectors. That's ridiculous, right? That only assumes that these children are billionaires. Often, these people have limited finances, right? In that sort of a scenario, when you have to send them to a different house, pay their rents, pay their utilities, all the immediate injections of money, their ability to finance actually professional good nurses or good people that can take care of them is also limited. We would much rather cut down on the costs of all those things and keep them in our homes and give them better services such as nurses and etc. Look, which side of these people on this side, which side of this way do these parents feel more like they're a burden? First of all, why do people feel like a burden in the very first place? Because they feel like they're losing all their productivity, their ability to work and earn, and are constantly falling ill. Therefore, they are only being taken care of, and they're not being able to do something for these adult children and their families. On our side of the house, that ability to do something for these children increases. When you interact with them every day, you can support them when they're sad, when they're depressed. You can take care of the children. You can give them productive times and spend time with them. That often means that you feel a little more productive than you would have felt on their side of this way. Second, I'll tell you why the emotional attachments get diluted on their side of this way before I move on. Yes?
Can you clarify why elderly people spending their time in other things which are meaningful to them rather than working to raise the children all the time cannot be meaningful to them?
That's a very low bar in the very first place. Spending time only in old homes is a very low bar. We all know how horrible those conditions are. But secondly, though, if there are productive things that you can spend time on, that can happen on our side of the house as well. These parents don't restrict your ability to spend time on all those sorts of things. Secondly, why emotional attachments get diluted on your side of the house. Over time, these adult children go through a lot of things. They get busier and busier every day. We recognize that this happens on both sides of this debate, and your ability to visit them on their side of the house, or your ability to spend time with them on our side of the house gets reduced in general. Why does distance then hurt so much? Firstly, living with them, seeing them every day, makes you understand that they need emotional support, which doesn't happen on their side of the house. 3 reasons why. First of all, You see that these people, what these people need is not just medication, but also emotional support. The melancholy, grim-faced old parent who does not talk much anymore, who lives alone, makes you realize that they are alone and they need emotional support. You see a change in their behavior, and you become cognizant of how, as you get busier, they get more lonely and lonelier. Living separately means you don't notice these changes, so often the necessity to actually give them emotional support decreases. Secondly, often these old people, upon losing their ability to function properly, do work, etc., feel like they're a burden anyway, which means in a lot of cases, all that they demand out of their children is just the medical support because they already feel like a burden, which means we cannot rest upon these people's ability to demand for emotional support. We need to notice these changes ourselves and go for that emotional support. Thirdly, often these adult children themselves forget the importance of emotional support. They got so drowned in their busy lives that everything that they do has to have a practical, tangible impact. Job gets you earnings, savings lets you live better, and lets your children live better. So these people slowly forget the importance of emotional support. The image of them sitting all alone, hour after hour, raises a visceral reaction that helps you understand that they are important. Lastly, living with them means you interact not only when you need them or when they need you, but over small talks, a small laughter over a distant childhood memory, or a short talk over a dining table. This humanizes people, and beyond just an old age, a disease that you need to cater to. These things happen on their side, consolidating the feeling that they are a burden, when the only conversations that happen are that I am ill, I need support. On our side adults, these small talks and these small emotional supports and emotional interactions makes them humanized. Death shall take these people apart forever. We need to keep them as close to us as possible until then. Very proud.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 16 seconds. 8:16. I thank the second proposition speaker for his speech, and now would like to recognize the second opposition speaker.
Proposition's only response to our entire argument about the vulnerable stakeholder of women. Women who are now told to be at home, to take care of grandma, because there's no job out there for them, there's no opportunity in the outside world anyways, you just stay at home. You give her the medicines whilst the man goes out and does his thing. You do your job of emotional labor and of being the maid you were supposed to be. Proposition's only response was that this is a wash and this will happen either way. The question is, in a context of an existing patriarchy which is being combated by things like the feminist movement, by the world liberalizing, and by change, all leading to a positive direction, do we want to introduce a norm that accelerates this progress, or does it actively hamper it? That is the difference between the two sides, and the next speaker for the very first time needs to deal with women because they are important. They are the people who the society has disenfranchised by not giving them the opportunity. Telling that there is no opportunity out of them is not sufficient for side proposition. The reason why this is different from children is because women do in the status quo have the option of daycare centers, of hiring babysitters, and I'll be explaining why even this is worse on their side of the house. We want to introduce a social norm that gives that option to these women. Now, before we move on any further, let's quickly deal with their third argument. Firstly, I would like to rebut their argument with the help of their first speaker's material. What did they say in the 7th minute? They said that these children have a sense of gratitude, that these are the parents who are responsible for all of their achievements, and they have memories with these parents. If that is the case, then it's unclear unclear why all of the exaggerated harms in the second speaker's speech about how children would suddenly forget in the matter of 16 minutes of debating about whether or not to take care of the child or not. The third speaker needs to resolve the disagreement with their first and second speaker. Please kindly do that for our benefit. But also, to be clear, ours is the side that provides alternative sources for this emotional support and medical care that proposition wants to render these elder generation with, and therefore this argument just does not stand in the face of our model. Our model about retirement homes, which they never anticipated, hoping that we would leave old people no thank you in a home to rot alone. That was not a world we would stand for. All of their harms are either false or significantly mitigated. Let's look at the two big ideas that came in their first speaker's speech. On the first argument then that they brought to us, what did they tell us? First of all, they talked about not about 18, 19-year-olds because they don't have the ability to pay rent. Let's be clear. We want these people to have the ability to take care of their parents, of the people who help them so much. How do we do that? We do that by increasing the political capital for the elderly generation. Ours is a side that need not support the status quo because we want to better the status quo. How do we do that? We do that by young people, these children who are grateful to their parents, being able to have the time, capacity, no thank you, and incentive to push for better retirement homes, better state homes, and better services like pension for their parents because they do care about them. Ours is a side that generates that incentive because let's be clear, sending more and more people to their homes, living with their adult children does not make that lifestyle cheaper or more accessible. However, sending more and more elderly generation to retirement homes makes them more cheaper and accessible. That's the side that opposition was. But next then, what did they tell us? They told us about there should be a social norm where the elderly generation are able to do their stuff and have emotional fulfillment from caring about their children. But this was in direct clash, and the second speaker did not attempt to rebut this with our characterization of these elderly generation often wanting to spend their own time with their spouse, with their friends, reminiscing over memories in the retirement home with other people with similar life experiences, not having the same old regular conversations and familiar faces and one meal a day and one conversation a day. But even if that's what they stand for, if they think these children are uniquely capable of giving them that one conversation worth of pleasure, if that happens once a week as opposed to once a day, they are perfectly happy. That's a very minor harm in their very best case. No, thank you. But what then did they tell us? In their second argument, this was absolutely decimated by all of our analysis about how these state-run homes oftentimes have better facilities for diagnosis and detection of Alzheimer. What did proposition come back with? They told us that these kids are not billionaires, but not engaging with our analysis that even rich kids would send their parents to old age homes, even middle class kids would send their kids to old age homes, as well as poor people. Does not matter if they are billionaires or not, as long as there is a critical mass, there is more demand and there is more incentive for the political state whom proposition agrees does not have the incentive in the status quo to do so. Ours is the side which generates that. No, thank you. Furthermore, to be clear, oftentimes politicians are elderly themselves, so there is a very likelihood that they will empathize and that they will do this. Proposition wanted to talk about the grandmother that did not die. Even my grandfather died 6 years ago. The reason we could not save him is because it was a preventable disease of pneumonia, but just that he did not get the medical services, thinking it was just exhaustion, thinking it was just an ordinary disease. If only we had provided him the immediate detection of a nurse, of a doctor who would not have dismissed it, no thank you, as forgetfulness or just the failing age of the old times, that's when those lives could have been saved. That's whom we stand for on side of this. Before I move on to my third argument, I'll take a point.
If these parents are apparently so sexist that they would force their women to remain at home, why would these children care so much about these parents to push for better elder homes?
Thank you for the wonderful point, because that really brings me to my third argument very directly about how progressive social values are actively tilted. I want to be clear, old people are not evil or actively sexist or racist. However, it is just indisputably true that they are bound to more conservative ideologies and viewpoints. Conservatism not in the sense of a political ideology, but in the sense of social values. I love my grandma, but just not the view she was telling me about why girls should do domestic chores as opposed to go out, live their life, and rock the world. What then? What are the reasons for this? First First of all, because of the fact that they had limited access and exposure to media and internet in those times, because they were simply not available 50 years ago. But second of all, the fact that they lived in traditional environments in which they formed their views at a young age, and therefore it was entrenched. And views, as we know, are unlikely to evolve significantly when you grow much older. But third of all, at those times, unlike us privileged fellows debating logically at the World Schools Debating Championship, they did not have access to debate and discourse of the highest quality nature. Hence, they resorted to appeals to intuition, authority, as well as emotion. But what are the impacts of this? The impacts of this are that in the home, which is the unique form of a safe space in which a child can express to his parents and those who are the nearest and dearest to him about his homosexuality, where a woman can talk about the possibility of having an abortion, that gets suppressed because there's internalization of fear within these people. Even the child's parents tell them that, shush, don't say this in front of grandpa because he will self-censor. The grandpa tells him, no, even I had some of these tendencies, but we'll just find a nice girl that from a good family and you'll be alright. On the other hand, on our side of the house, when you go to retirement homes, you don't have meaningless conversations. The limited time and less frequency means that you have higher quality about fun stuff, about nice things. Let's play this game, my grandma, let's tell me a bedtime story. That's the stuff that is far likely to happen to maximize the quality of time, not the quantity. Since we want to give a new life to old people.
Parents are ultra-conservative, so they don't let you express your homosexuality. In no way in their speech did they ever say how they're able to do that at the point in time you shove their parents away in an old home. For their argument to stand, you have to completely dissociate yourself from any form of emotional connection to your parents to be able to express your homosexuality. For their side of the house to stand, you have to agree to a world where you don't take care of your parents in any meaningful way whatsoever and you shove them away from your life. For that's the reality of the case from their side. But realize that if it's true that you can at the same time have connections with them in their old home and express your homosexuality, that can also happen at home. I don't see the problem because at the same time, even if you don't agree with your parents on the basis of your homosexuality, you can still live together and form connections to other meanings in life. It's unlikely that parents, if I am a homosexual individual, in most cases I would probably also not want my parents to not support me. If they don't, I can still stay together and then not agree on those things, but agree on other things. For example, taking care of them and those kinds of things. We think their side of the house is not mutually exclusive because even if you want to keep some sort of emotional connection with your parents, you still have to face the brunt of your parents' complaints about why you are homosexual. We think that side of the house does not have a positive argument in this way, even if there is a delusion that they do. Firstly, two issues in my speech. First, which words makes it better for the parents, and secondly, which words make it better for the women and the family as a whole. On the first issue, realize that their side of the house is a very narrow characterization of how parents are. They somehow claim that elderly parents, then realize this debate is not only about just parents, but elderly parents. Their side of the house, from their side, the characterization is these people are rich individuals who have so much savings that they can buy their own house, or they have so many friends that they can hang out with all the time, or they are people who need independence as if they are not getting enough already, staying away from their children. Meaning their side of the house has a very skewed characterization of who these people really are and the ways in which they suffer due to the lack of the presence of their children around them. We think they have to agree on a more reasonable characterization of how these individuals are likely to be vulnerable. Given that there was no analysis or no analysis or no engagement on this basis, we think we want the characterization side of this debate already. Firstly, on issues of emotion, they say that you have friends and other hobbies. No engagement toward analysis of how, when you retire, you're likely to lose out on these friends. When you're old age, you're unlikely to be able to travel to the golf course on your own, and at the same time make those friends or hang out with those friends in and of itself. Their side of the house has no defense for these individuals who cannot do that at their old age, and their side has no engagement for us as well. Secondly, they say that parents want independence when they're old. Honestly, that can happen on both sides of the house. When you're living with your parents, I don't see why it's exclusive that you cannot have independence. If you want a date with your husband when you're old, that can still happen on the hours of the house as well. That's not mutually exclusive, and the independence in and of itself is mutually exclusive. The problem is, under the status quo, these parents get too much independence to a point where they feel lonely, and that is the word that they have to engage in. Realize, but if you realize the claim that if you want to do these things by yourself, that these parents, their characterization is these parents want to live by themselves. If that's true, then their own characterization of how they're likely to encroach on women and their ability to work is also untrue. Because if these parents want to be independent, they're most likely not going to be as sexist as you claim them to be in most cases, ladies and gentlemen. If these parents want to live on their own and be independent, they're not going to tell their parents, they're not going to tell the children that stay at your home, do not go to work. We think their characterization is now itself self-contradictory based on the characterization that the two sides claim. Yes, clear. Okay.
Why do you want parents to only be spending time with their children as opposed to some with their spouse, some with their friends, some with new people along with their children?
We have already told you why that's not mutually exclusive. That can happen under our side of the house. We have given you a positive argument why under your side of the house, the form of time that you spend with your family members decrease. That is exactly our second speaker argument. The point in time your family, when your parents live away from you, that's the point in time you lose that emotional connection that you have with your parents. You are much less likely to go on and make a phone call or even present yourself in front of your parents and have that conversation. The point in time they live far away from you. One, your job life is busy, so you don't have the time. But two, you lose out on those nuances of all the connections because you do not watch a football match together and you do not have those conversations, so you cannot relate with your parents altogether. Under their side of the house, the problem that you create is these parents have too much loneliness, not a point that they do not have enough independence. They have to engage with this analysis to prove their argument to be true. On the second issue of assistance, they claim that you need professionals to look over those parents. Realize that this is again not mutually exclusive. If these children are able to hire professionals and pay those fees of those old homes, we think that can happen under our side of the house as well. When these individuals can hire a nurse under their side. If you claim that these people need a nurse to look over those symptoms of elderly diseases, we think that is not mutually exclusive. The difference then is which side of the house, or under which side can you do that better? Realize that there was no engagement to our PM's analysis as to how you need to look into certain characteristic traits of these individuals to know about their mental diseases. For example, for Alzheimer's, you need to know whether or not they recognize certain things around them. These kinds of small, minute traits are something that can never be identified from those nurses who have not spent sufficient amount of time with them. Realize that under our side of the house, when these children are there around them, in most cases, they can know about these traits and then can easily identify and preemptively tackle those mental issues before they indulge themselves in a much more devastating manner. We think that's the comparative. But realize, their argument also does not apply because in most cases, the old homes that you talk about themselves are extremely impoverished to a point where one nurse has to take care of multiple old people. At that point in time, the care that you have for these individuals are extremely limited whatsoever. Then they claim that when there is a demand, there will be more. When there is a demand, there will extremely be a lot more old homes, and the quality of old homes will increase. There are two problems with this. One, if you want to put your parent to that more expensive old home, you need a lot more finance. Their argument is exclusive to only those rich people who can afford that. But secondly, If like for example, mass decided the quality of things, in most cases that would also mean that since there are a lot of women in a country, they would also get access to jobs because they are a lot in mass. So in most cases, the system and the things around them and the social conditions around them improve. That's exactly not how things work. They're still likely to be forced into those subpart old homes. Secondly, on the issue of which world makes it better for the family and for the women, their main thrust in this argument is that women cannot get a job. Nowhere in this analysis do they ever show why that's mutually exclusive. They had to give a proper mechanism, except of those funny jokes that the second speaker talked about. They needed a proper mechanism as to how these individuals can get to uplift themselves to the social ladder at the point in time when they're not happy, when they do not have their families, or when they do not have to take care of the old people. What does this look like? Realize that if the narrative is that women should not work, that would exist regardless. Under your side of the house, women would still be forced to take care of their children. I don't see as to how the point in time the parents come away from the equation, why the social narrative in and of itself changes to a point where these women can uplift themselves. But realize that again, under your side of the house, women will still not go to work for a lot of other different reasons. The reasons that you characterize for themselves as here. So even if these women are not uplifted, we provide protection to a more vulnerable group of people who are these older individuals who are vulnerable at their old age, who cannot have any form of protection from other entities at the point in time when they're old because they need a form of emotional support, something that they cannot get from their outside house. But secondly, we can even flip that argument from their side. Realize that if there's any scope of you being able to convince your family that you as a woman have to work, the only way that can happen is when you form some form of emotional connection with your in-laws. The problem is that under your side of the house, when you push your in-laws away, those in-laws never know your struggles of being a woman. Under our side of the house, when you form an active emotional connection with those in-laws, and those in-laws know as to what are the struggles that you go through, that your education is going, that your education or the degree that you achieve has no impact, that's the point that they feel sympathy towards you, is more likely to send you to a workplace because they feel like you as a woman have also worked a lot to get the degree. It's time to not let that go to waste. Under your side of the house, when you shove those parents away, that narrative never changes because these people always constantly feel like, guess what, these are individuals who are meant to stay at homes. The social narrative and the pressure from in-laws is stagnant under their side of the house. We provide some mechanism of change, something that's present in the status quo. Their side cannot do that. Very proud to propose. Thank you.
Values don't change in either world. The gender roles are constantly entrenched, and therefore, irrespective of the burden of caretaking placed on women, it is all right because these social values simply won't change. But if they really cared about progress in social values, they would have engaged with our second speaker's entire argument on how it is their narrative that actively hinders progress of social values. A world in which the elderly are taken care of by living in the houses of their adult children makes it much less likely that their grandchildren are able to express themselves, makes it much less likely that they are exposed to ideas that are actually progressive, makes it much less likely that socially conservative values are actually battled. We are the side that gave you clear mechanisms for social change in our second speech, a form of social change that is actively undermined, no thanks in their word. We want a new life for the elderly and a new life for society. We're proud to stand in opposition. 3 questions in this speech. Firstly, How does this affect the caretakers? No thanks. Secondly, does this norm better or worsen the lives of the elderly? And thirdly, which side progresses social norms in a better way? Firstly, how does this affect these caretakers? The central argument we pushed from the very start was the argument that this increases substantially the burden on caretakers. Specifically, that this is a gendered norm, in which there is a constant stereotype in society that caretaking is a norm that should fall predominantly on women. That means women are expected to caretake not just for their children, but for the elderly. So if they really cared about the norm of women caring for children, they would have not placed an additional burden on them to take care of the elderly as well, to systemically limit their access to education, to job opportunities, and to financial independence. What do we hear in response from their side of the house? Firstly, we heard from their third proposition speaker that we want these elderly parents to understand the sexism that these women face. But we pointed out that if you really want them to understand the mechanism through which their stereotypes about women can be destroyed, maybe ensure that their daughters are actual working professionals who come to visit them as working professionals, as CEOs of their companies, as people who set up their small businesses. That seems like a better way to engender social change in the minds of the elderly. But then they told us, this is true of children as well. Would you place all children in state-run facilities? A number of responses. First thing we pointed out in our first speech, that children have structurally different needs, no thanks. That for them, it is far more important that they form social bonds with a small number of individuals, typically their parents, whereas for the elderly, they need a wider access to a social network and health infrastructure. That's why, for example, even for orphan children, we try to put them in foster homes rather than orphanages because we recognize the need for these specific social bonds. Whereas for the elderly, we put them in state-run facilities. But secondly, we acknowledge that daycare systems and boarding school systems are systems that we want to set up as well in order to alleviate this burden on women. But crucially, our second speaker pointed out that if they are creating the social norm, we want a social norm that allows and enables the progress that has existed in society. So yes, no thanks. Women face gender roles right now, but in a world of societal progress, do we want a norm that places an additional burden on women and hinders the ability of societies to progress forward? We cared about these caretakers whose lives are torn apart, who are forced to care for the elderly, give up their access to financial independence, give up their access to job opportunities, give up their access to higher education. They never actually responded to the mechanisms we gave them in our first speech for why this happened. We cared about the liberation of women from these from being trapped in these gender roles. We're proud to stand for that. Second question in the speech, let's look at the effects on older generations. The central claim from them is that elder people get better assistance in their world. So for example, in their first speech, they said if you need to rush your parent to a hospital, it is much better if you live with someone. No thanks. What I pointed out from the very start is it's better that someone is a trained medical professional. It is better that something has an ambulance attached to it. That way you can actually gain the kinds of assistance that you need. Because we told you that in the vast majority of instances, the comparative is retirement homes. It's places for these people to actually interact with other individuals and gain the support that they need. What did we hear in response to that? In their second proposition speech, they told us that there is no political incentive to fund these state-run homes, that these state-run homes are really bad. But the problem with this is that it is in our world that we create this incentive. Why? Because their children are sending these people to retirement homes and are therefore more likely to vote in for things like policies that can actually improve the conditions of these old age homes and of these retirement homes to gain these people access to better care facilities. Specifically notice, there are some exceptions, no thanks, in their world as well. In their world, there will be some situations in which the social norm is violated and people will have to be sent to retirement homes. In those instances, they don't have the political capital, as we pointed out in our first speech, to fund these retirement homes to actually gain access for these senior citizens. It is in our world that the conditions of retirement homes substantially, no thanks, improve. But then they told us in that third proposition speech, this is only true of rich people. Ordinary senior citizens can't actually go to retirement homes. A number of responses. Firstly, a lot of these state homes are state homes that are run by the state and built specifically for the purpose of access across socioeconomic groups. Secondly, in a world without this norm, it seems to me that wealthy individuals are the only people who will ever have access to these retirement homes. Thirdly, these families also have to take up resources to host these senior citizens in their homes. They have to pay for their utility costs, they have to pay for food costs. We'd rather they spend these resources in the savings of these senior citizens in going to these retirement homes in the first instance. But then they told us about emotional stability, that we need these people to have access to their friend circles, to people they can relate to in order to solve the problem of loneliness. We suggested that the problem of loneliness is better solved in our world at the point where they actually have people they can relate to, of similar ages who they can talk about the good times, particularly if their partner is no longer with them. These are the people who they need, the friends and assistance that they uniquely need and that we provide to them. Go for it.
If these parents are so manipulative that they control their children and their women, then on our side of the house, when they build emotional connections, they're more likely to get the permission to go more.
But the parents, the elderly parents are the ones who are controlling these women. Social norms expect these women to be the ones who are engaging in caretaking. It seems like a much more likely pressure placed on these women to engage in this kind of caretaking. The next claim from them is that children are unique, that they raised them and that this distance can be really painful. And crucially in that third proposition speech, the children are better at noticing specific traits of these senior citizens, can spot whether they have Alzheimer's. Now this might seem controversial, but I would suggest that in order to spot Alzheimer's, it is better to know Alzheimer's than to know the person who has it. Specifically the symptoms that you can spot, your access to professional support. Those are the kinds of things we uniquely get in our side of the house. Let's look then at the third question on changing social norms. They told us a number of things here. Firstly, they said that in their second speech that adult children will forget the importance of support if they are not constantly in contact and interaction with these senior citizens. There's two issues with this. Firstly, as we pointed out in our second speech, this conflicts with their own characterization of these children as people who care for their parents, as people who have shared memories. As a result, it seems unlikely that these children just lose support. But one important thing is that in our world, we get both the benefits of retirement homes and the benefits of interaction with children. So children can interact on a week-on-week basis and they can get the benefits of professional support in a retirement home, whereas in their world, they're relegated to the benefits of these children. So yes, we might get a few less hours with these children among these senior citizens, but we think the benefits of this compound to a significant degree. But we also gave you a second speaker argument on how this engenders social values that are particularly dangerous. Specifically, that senior citizens are more likely to have socially conservative values. This makes it much harder for a gay teen to try to express herself as gay, or a trans teen to start transitioning or go through the process of transitioning in a home. It is far better for them to choose when they interact with their senior citizens and their grandparents, so they know how to act, they know how to express themselves without facing constant marginalization in the home that is for them. This progress in social values is actively undermined in their work. We wanted a new life for senior citizens, a new life for caretakers, and a new life for children. This is the world we get on Team Opposition. We're incredibly proud to do this.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 28 seconds. 8 to 8. I thank the third opposition speaker for this speech, and now I'd like to invite the opposition reply speaker.
The opposition was incredibly afraid of their own case because every time we pushed them on it, they just said, don't worry, that's not mutually exclusive. We'll get that nurse. We'll ensure that the woman goes out as well. Even though their entire case was about the benefits of the children, was about how old people derive meaning only from these children. Or how about that's the only thing these old people can ever look forward to. They want that kind of outcomes. We had a far clearer stance. We were willing to acknowledge that we wanted more independence for the children and for the elderly. We wanted them to be, the elderly to be able to benefit from spending time with their children, but also to be able to aspire to more than just cooking pasta and syrup and get a meaning from feeding their child. We wanted a new life for these old people. That's what we are proud to stand for. Two questions in this reply. Firstly, on how their norm affects women and minorities. Secondly, on impacts of the elderly. On the first question, on impacts on women and minorities. We gave you an entire second speaker argument about how if you're living in the same home as someone who is socially quite conservative, who thinks you shouldn't be homosexual, who thinks you shouldn't transition, who thinks you shouldn't get an abortion, it's far harder for you to draw those lines for yourself when you need to. And you as a gay child don't even tell your parents, even if your parents are progressive, that you're gay because they say, grandpa might listen, stay quiet, he might feel uncomfortable with this. When we give you a clear comparative that if these parents lived in a retirement home, you as that child have significantly more freedom in determining your own identity, in growing up without that kind of pressure. We were the side which stood for social norms progressing and for social change. They never actually engaged with why they were willing to slow down that progress at all. This is incredibly damaging to their case, especially if they wanted to care about the vulnerable. But on women, we gave you analysis down the bench of the fact that these harms, the constant surveillance was most likely to be done by these women. We didn't say that these families were aggressively sexist, what they tried to characterize us as. We just said that the norm for taking care of these parents exists, is most likely to fall upon these women. That these elderly parents grew up in a time when they thought that these women would be taking care of them. These women have lesser paid jobs and are the ones who are most likely to be forced to quit. They didn't actually engage with that nuance and just said, aha, these values won't change on either side. But we gave you a reason that even if a social norm exists to keep women at home, that wasn't a reason to keep making that social norm exist even more. That was a reason to try to ease that social norm step by step. That's why we stood for things like daycare facilities for women as well, so that they were able to seek these opportunities in the first place. So women getting higher education, being able to seek a job, your daughter being able to see her mother doing more than just taking care of the elderly, were all impacts that only our side got, and which was transformational for women around the world. But next to the question of elderly, we gave you a few reasons why for old age homes that aren't just bad right now, for many structural reasons we gave you, and are also more likely to be improving. Things like more support from voters, things like increasing demand for a wide range of homes, state-run homes, private homes, more politicians existing that are elderly, the economic support that they wanted for these parents now going for these homes. Analysis that we gave you down our 3 speeches meant that these homes existed in a way which was beneficial to these people. But even if these people lived alone, we gave you reasons for why this was beneficial for them. 2 sets of things. We told you about their health. The fact that if you're a nurse who's seen many people with Alzheimer's already, who's seen what dementia looks like, who's seen what depression looks like, you don't just say grandmother's being quiet today. You don't just say this is just who she is, this is the forgetfulness of the old age. You're able to spot those things as actual problems and stop them when it's not too late. We also told you that older people should have the ability to have their own needs, whether you're living with your partner and want to be able to buy a sari for yourself or go on a vacation. The examples we gave you down the bench. The fact that the only thing they said was fulfilling to these old people was just cooking pasta or just taking care of these children just wasn't enough. Because if it was true that children were what brought these people fulfillment, we had the ability to meet those children once in a while. But we thought older people had the ability to derive meaning from more than that. After lives of working 24/7, we wanted them to have the ability to finally rest rather than being pushed into propositions jobs of childcare. We wanted a new life for old people. We're proud to work with.
The speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 22 seconds. 422. I thank the opposition reply. Now I'd like to invite proposition's reply speaker to close this debate.
Two key issues in this debate. Firstly, is our world better for parents? And secondly, is our world better for children? On to the first issue. Opposition claims from the get-go that there exists these magical old homes with infinite funding, infinitely good infrastructure, which would accommodate an infinite number of parents without breaking a sweat whatsoever. Understand that our Deputy Prime Minister makes 2 reasonable responses to this model that were never challenged. He first claimed that old people are likely to be extremely politically inactive, so they simply cannot force the government to increase budgets on the things that literally have no return on investment. But secondly, he also claimed that old people do not have a stable income, so the return on investment from these old homes is likely to be low. So old homes cannot make a lot of money from these, so the government's incentive to improve them is low because of low capacity. The only response to this that we got throughout 3 speeches is that young people love their parents and they would get to the streets to push the government. But then they claim that parents are sexist, homophobic monsters that would send you to electrocution therapy just because they found that you're gay. So we don't see how much they are likely to love their parents to begin with in the first place. If they're so horrible people, that's a contradiction without no justification. Secondly, if this was the circumstances around this debate, we believe that the most likely scenario in this instance is that the parents would cut contact with the children absolutely in all instances. We don't believe that they can have their cake and eat it as well, whereby they can first speak that these individuals are extremely sexist, but they claim that these individuals would reasonably keep a lot of contact with their parents, given that they are so sexist. We don't believe that how this works. To all of these things, they try to run an alternative, which is like medical professionals. But then this also doesn't respond to two things. First, it doesn't respond to analysis as to certain diseases require constant surveillance. It requires certain individuals being there for you all the time, because these are small changes to your personality that these individuals cannot simply perceive. But secondly, no response to medical emergencies as to how these old people are so physically weak that it becomes extremely difficult for them to respond to medical emergencies in the instance one arrives, which is something that we have been pushing from first off. Their opposition claims that parents cannot do other things apparently on our side of the world. We gave you two responses which might responded to them. Firstly, government whip rightfully points out that this is not mutually exclusive, that your ability, that you staying in your child's house doesn't necessarily reduce your ability to go out and enjoy other things. But secondly, no analysis as to how people are physically weak, so other forms of entertainment or other sources of meaning that they would like to engage in, for example, are things that they cannot do so because they cannot actively go out. We claim that the kind of happiness that we get from cooking a meal for a child, or the kind of happiness that you get from playing with your grandchild is not something which requires hours and hours of physical strain and mental strain. It's something that you can do from the comfort of your homes. But finally, and most egregiously, our second speaker argument was horribly strawman throughout the debate. The argument that he tried to make was that distance creates emotional attachment. Second opposition tried to make a contradiction argument by saying that I claim that people love their parents. People love their parents. That's not something that we are not claiming. What we're claiming is that distance decreases the love that you initially had for your parents when you realize that they do care of you day after day. The distance of month after month of not talking properly to your parents after a day is something which decreases. But thirdly, their entire argument about how, for example, individuals become how conversations become less genuine on our side of the world was responded to by my second speaker when he claimed that the topic of conversations is unlikely to increase anyway because of a lack of relatability. No response. Finally, as to whether our world is better for children, no response to A, the sense of fulfillment children get from being able to take care of their parents, and secondly, the constant emotional support that they get. The only thing that they claimed was that they're held back by sexist forces. We challenged them that sexist views would exist regardless. No response. Only Octofinals claims that these elderly people have so much power over these people that they simply cannot speak up. But if that's the case, the gauche reply then claims that parents aren't the ones who are sexist, it's the society. So we see another contradiction. But secondly, understand that if similar conditions apply for constant surveillance, they would also apply for sparse contact. That is, your parents would still likely to be sexist and force you, even if you just meet them once a month. We don't see how any of the case makes sense. Very proud to propose.
If everyone in the audience wants to remain here with the teams, the panel will leave just because I think that'll save time if you're all moving.
Sweet will